Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into something that shaped medieval European society in ways most people never realize: the guild system. These weren't just trade associations, they were powerful organizations that controlled entire economies, guarded secrets with obsessive intensity, and determined who could work, where they could work, and how much they could earn. If you enjoy this kind of historical deep dive, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It really helps the channel grow. When we think of medieval Europe, we often picture knights, castles, and plague. But beneath that dramatic surface, everyday economic life was governed by organizations so powerful that kings negotiated with them, so secretive that members swore binding oaths, and so controlling that they regulated everything from product quality to who could marry whom. Let's explore how these guilds actually functioned and why their grip on medieval society was both impressive and deeply troubling. Medieval guilds were exclusive organizations of craftsmen and merchants who monopolized specific trades within a city or region. If you wanted to work as a blacksmith, baker, weaver, or goldsmith, you had to join the appropriate guild. There was no alternative. These organizations emerged around the 11th century as European cities began to grow. Craftsmen realized that by banding together, they could control competition, set prices, and protect their interests against both nobility and foreign merchants. Each guild operated under a charter, usually granted by the local lord or king. This charter gave them legal monopoly over their trade. In exchange, guilds paid taxes, maintained quality standards, and sometimes provided military service during conflicts. The internal structure was hierarchical and rigid. At the top were master craftsmen, established professionals who owned their own shops and employed others. Below them were journeymen, skilled workers who had completed apprenticeship but didn't yet own their own businesses. At the bottom were apprentices, teenagers learning the trade. This wasn't just economic organization. Guilds controlled social life too. They organized religious festivals, provided charity to members' widows and orphans, and maintained their own chapels. Guild membership defined your entire identity. The power these organizations wielded was extraordinary. They could inspect workshops, confiscate substandard goods, fine violators, and even ban people from working entirely. In many cities, guild courts handled disputes without involving secular authorities. Understanding this context is essential because it reveals how different medieval economic life was from our assumptions about free markets and individual opportunity. Becoming a guild member wasn't simple. It required years of grueling apprenticeship that began in childhood and consumed your entire youth. Boys, and it was almost exclusively boys, typically entered apprenticeship between ages 10 and 14. Their families paid substantial fees to master craftsmen who agreed to train them. This wasn't education as we understand it. You weren't attending classes, you were essentially indentured labor. Apprentices lived in their master's household, often for 7 years or more. They worked dawn to dusk, performing menial tasks before gradually learning actual craft skills. Sweeping floors, hauling materials, tending fires, this was your life for the first several years. The master controlled every aspect of existence. He provided food, shelter, and clothing, but he also determined when you woke, when you ate, when you rested. Punishment for mistakes or disobedience could be harsh. Physical discipline was considered normal and necessary. What made this system particularly restrictive was its secrecy. Guilds guarded techniques obsessively. Apprentices swore oaths never to reveal trade secrets. Teaching outsiders could result in expulsion from the guild, an end to your career. This secrecy served multiple purposes. It protected competitive advantages, justified high prices, and maintained the guild's monopoly. If anyone could learn blacksmithing, the guild would lose power. By controlling knowledge, they controlled the market. After completing apprenticeship, you didn't automatically become a master. You became a journeyman, a skilled worker who traveled between cities, working for various masters to gain experience. This period could last another 5 to 10 years. only after demonstrating exceptional skill and, critically, having enough money to establish your own shop could you apply for master status. And even then, acceptance wasn't guaranteed. In many guilds, especially by the late medieval period, becoming a master required family connections. The sons of existing masters had enormous advantages. The system promised opportunity but delivered hierarchy. Social mobility existed in theory but was limited in practice. Guilds didn't just organize craftsmen, they controlled entire urban economies with iron precision. Each guild maintained strict monopoly over its trade within city boundaries. If you were caught making shoes without belonging to the shoemakers guild, your products would be confiscated and you could face fines or imprisonment. They regulated production at every level. Guilds determined how many apprentices a master could train, what materials could be used, what techniques were acceptable, and even what hours shops could operate. These weren't suggestions, they were enforceable rules. Price fixing was standard practice. Guild members would collectively agree on prices for goods and services. This eliminated competition among members and ensured high profits. Customers had no choice but to pay these rates because no alternatives existed. Geographic restrictions were particularly suffocating. A guild charter typically covered only one city. If you wanted to move and practice your trade elsewhere, you needed to gain acceptance from that city's guild, which often refused outsiders to protect local members. Women faced especially harsh barriers. Most guilds excluded them entirely. Widows of masters sometimes inherited their husband's position, but this was an exception, not a rule. Women were systematically prevented from learning most skilled trades. This control extended beyond economics into politics. In many medieval cities, guild masters formed a significant portion of the governing council. They literally wrote the laws that regulated their own industries. The conflict of interest was obvious, but unchallenged. The result was a closed economic system that benefited insiders at everyone else's expense. Innovation was discouraged because it threatened established practices. Competition was eliminated because it threatened established profits. While guilds provided security for members, they created hardship for everyone else. The first victims were outsiders trying to enter trades. If you didn't have family connections or substantial money for apprenticeship fees, your options were extremely limited. The system preserved wealth and power within established families. Jews were systematically excluded from most guilds across Europe. This exclusion forced Jewish communities into specific occupations, like money lending, which then became the basis for anti-Semitic stereotypes. Guild restrictions directly contributed to religious persecution. Rural craftsmen faced constant harassment. Guilds pressured authorities to ban village blacksmiths, weavers, and other craftsmen from selling products in towns. This protected urban guild monopolies, but hurt rural economies and limited options for poor consumers. Foreign merchants encountered elaborate restrictions. They could only trade during specific market days, had to pay special fees, couldn't sell certain goods, and were prohibited from dealing directly with consumers in some cities. Guilds wanted foreign products taxed and controlled to minimize competition. Within guilds, exploitation was common. Masters had enormous power over apprentices and journeymen. Physical abuse, wage theft, and excessive work hours were widespread. Since guild courts were controlled by masters, workers had little recourse. The masterpiece requirement became a tool of exclusion. To become a master, candidates had to create an exceptional piece of work demonstrating their skill. However, by the late medieval period, these requirements became impossibly expensive and complex, deliberately designed to keep journeymen from advancing. Some guilds required candidates to host elaborate feasts for existing masters as part of the acceptance process. These could cost more than a year's wages, ensuring that only wealthy candidates could advance. Women who tried to work independently faced organized opposition. Guilds would petition authorities to ban women workers, claiming they produced inferior goods or undermined moral standards. This was economic protectionism dressed as concern for quality and virtue. The system created permanent underclasses of workers who could never advance, families trapped in poverty because they lacked guild access, and entire communities excluded from urban prosperity. Medieval guilds surrounded themselves with mystery, ritual, and sworn secrecy that bordered on obsessive. New members underwent elaborate initiation ceremonies that resembled religious rites. Oaths were sworn on holy relics, secret passwords were established, symbolic objects were presented. These rituals created intense loyalty and made membership feel sacred rather than merely economic. Trade secrets were guarded with paranoid intensity. Guilds developed coded language to discuss techniques in public. Important knowledge was passed orally rather than written down to prevent leaks. Some guilds even encrypted their records. The most valuable secrets involved manufacturing processes, how Venetian